Most people end up buying a home and spending more than they ever intend to in the process. They don't fully expect there to be repairs and all these other hassles, but there's another way. You could consider doing things that would allow you to be able to perhaps get you some tax benefits in the process, be able to maybe hold on to a piece of property and start building up an investment portfolio way sooner than you thought. Let's talk about a listing I've got for you right now, 2744 Stevens Avenue in the Whittier neighborhood of Minneapolis. What I want to do is take you through the different rental reports of what it would look like if you own or occupied the place, meaning you lived in half the duplex and the other half you rented out, versus the option of just making it a straight investment and seeing how that cash flow would really benefit you in the long run. Now let's talk about actually getting cash flow in there and the best way to be able to calculate that. So I love the website Bigger Pockets. I find its calculators are really easy to use and they give you a lot of data for free and it's wonderful for newbies. Now I've already calculated where the rental reports are going to look on this, so I'm going to show you first what it would look like with you living in the lower unit, which is only a 2-bedroom in this case. Now the important thing when you come into any sort of duplex that you are going to be living in, or a triplex or even a quadplex, is that you have to understand that no matter what, except for very rare cases, you're probably going to end up with a negative cash flow at the end of the day, but it's going to be drastically less than what the mortgage payment would be if you were just to spend that money elsewhere. In addition, you get things like tax benefits, and we'll talk more on that later. Starting off with this tool, I enter in the address. I'm going to enter in the purchase price, which I know is going to be $530,000, and the closing costs in Minnesota typically hover between 2 to 5%. I like to go with 3% as my average, so 3% of the purchase price comes at $15,900. Now from here, I'm just going to either the MLS listing, I can maybe go to Zillow, Homes.com, Compass, which is my brokerage. You can go to their website, and you can get more information on what specs are already provided to you. Now, in my listings, I try to give every single spec to the consumer so that way they have to do as little legwork as possible, because that means my sale is going to move quicker because I've answered all their questions on the upfront. So from here, I'm able just to enter in things and be able to get a good idea of where things are at. On payment, I am putting 20% down for this. Right now, duplexes, if you want to go with less than 20%, it's going to be a little bit rougher of a ride unless you plan to maybe invest in it to turn it into a rehab property where you can then get increased rents down the road. And that also is going to allow you maybe to make some positive cash flow as well. Interest rate, 6.7. This is me just pulling from bankrate.com on where the average interest rates are hovering around this week. No points are being charged with the loan, 30-year loan term, and then we are seeing $2,600 a month rents for that 4-bedroom, 2-bath in the upper level. Property taxes, again, I'm just pulling directly from the listing, and then I've got to take into account repairs and maintenance, vacancy, capital expenditures, I guess 3% for all of those. Repairs and maintenance are exactly what they sound. Those are the small repairs around the house. Vacancy means you don't have a tenant, and capital expenditures, well, that's going to be the unsexy stuff that comes with home ownership. So things like replacing your roof or replacing your furnace. Now in this unit, electricity is already split between the units, so the upper unit's getting its own separate electric bill. However, gas is not, so that means that if I'm owning this unit, I'm paying the gas bill for upstairs and downstairs. Minnesota, we don't use gas much in the summer, but we do use it a lot in the winter, so we're hovering around $100 here. Keep in mind, these are all just rough approximations. As you're going to see, we're negative cash flow. We're negative $1,500 approximately, but if I was to buy this place not renting out half of it, I'd be paying around $3,500 a month. Things get more interesting though if you wanted to actually turn this into a proper investment where you are just owning it on the outside. Now the big downside here is that your interest rate is going to be higher than it would be if you were to live in it, and let's take a look at what that would look like. So now talking about actually using this as a true investment where you are maybe more hands-off and never coming to the place besides to do maybe some maintenance yourself and collecting rent. Really the only thing I had to change is the fact that the interest rate's going to be a little bit higher. Generally speaking, they're going to be anywhere from 0.5% to a full percent higher. I went with 0.5% higher at 7.2% and left everything else the same with the exception of the fact that monthly income got a little bit higher because now we could calculate both units' rent into effect. So, gross monthly income sits around $4,700. And finalizing my analysis here, I see that I actually make a cash flow of $238 a month. Now the biggest thing that we haven't really hit on though is that cash cash flow isn't everything when it comes to investments. It's actually going to be your cap rate. Now your cap rate here hovers around 7%. I'm going to be honest, I am terrible at explaining cap rate to people, and this is where the wonderfulness of ChatGPT has come into a great way for me to be able to make it as clear as possible. So what does a cap rate actually mean? It's just a way to measure your return on investment before factoring in loans. You calculate it by doing your net operating income over the property value times 100, and that's your percent. The good rule of thumb tends to be to hover between 5 to 8% because that's really going to maximize both your risk and cash flow to be in a really healthy and safe spot for an investment. Now the other big thing with investment properties is you're going to get tax benefits. Depreciation, writing off your mortgage interest rate, pass-through taxes, and then just general write-offs for operating expenses. Now let's say you want to be able to calculate what a return could be on any sort of property and you don't have all of this data available. Well, then you're going to make use of the best trusted tools you can. When it comes to checking out where interest rates are, that's where I love Bank Rate. Same thing with where insurance rates are, Bank Rate. For checking out local apartment rents, I love using just Zillow, homes.com, apartments.com, and I'm just looking for anything that really gives me the same vibe as the unit I'm looking at. This unit is currently cash flowing, and I am truthfully amazed that more people aren't making a move on it right now, as real estate has been a safe investment in basically every economic downturn ever, 2008 notwithstanding. Stevens is a fantastic investment opportunity for anyone looking for one right now because it's got 6 bedrooms, 4 up, 2 down. You've got 2 bathrooms in the upper unit, 1 in the lower level, and right now they're even using the lower level as an Airbnb, which is a different form of income altogether, which also gives you more opportunity. It also has one of the most crucial things you can ever ask for in a city with winter, which is off-street parking. If you want to learn more about Stevens, well, that link is in my description. If you want to learn more about just investing in Minnesota in general, well, you should set up a time to chat with me for about 30 minutes, and I've got that link in my description as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Twin Cities Blueprint with Tim Comas. I'll catch you next time.